Hey, high school literacy learners, this is DLC Foster Yankee, welcoming you back to another episode of Curriculum Chats. In this video, I'll be discussing Section 1, Lesson 2 in the American Dream of Home Ownership. So diving right in, here are the goals and helps for this lesson. Students are discussing and writing about explicit and implicit meanings of the article, Why Owning a Home is the American Dream. They're analyzing characteristics and structural elements of the informational text, Why Owning a Home is the American Dream, such as a clear thesis, strong supporting evidence, pertinent examples, commentary, and the summary, as well as the author's purpose within the article. Just two texts for this lesson. Students are reading Why Owning a Home is the American Dream by Anthony DePalma, as well as Chapter 5, Detached Houses, The Dream of Home Ownership, which is an excerpt from The American Dream, a short history of an idea that shaped a nation by Jim Cullen. Side note, that excerpt can only be found in the unit reader, not available online that we were able to find. More about that later, though, when we get back to that text. The materials for this lesson are the Attending to Details tool, American Dream of Home Ownership vocabulary list, vocabulary and context tool and journal, annotating and note-taking reference guide, argument reference guide, literacy toolbox reference guide, questioning reference guide, and section 1, lesson 2 question set. For our lesson overview, in this lesson, students are reading and analyzing a 1988 newspaper article that articulates why many Americans at that time continued to want to purchase and own homes. The text presents the first opportunity to analyze an informational source for perspective, reasoning, and use of evidence as students move toward analyzing and deliberating arguments later in the reading. So this lesson in Activity 1 resumes where the previous lesson left off, with students considering the questions that guided their reading of the first 7 paragraphs of Why Owning a Home is the American Dream. So same questions that we saw at the end of Lesson 1. After discussing those questions, students share and compare the details from the text they annotated during their reading and explain what they have learned from those details. Next, the class reviews the concept of authorial perspective in informational or argumentative text by discussing what the first section of this article suggests about the author's view of this topic. So I think in this case, review really does need review. Authorial perspective is not a new concept for these students. As a matter of fact, a great deal of the 9th grade foundation unit revolves around it. So we shouldn't see any mini lessons or worksheets here. This is not new to them. They're familiar with this. So, a quick review, and they're responding to the question on the screen. A note in preparation for reading and analyzing the rest of the text. The class discusses this sentence from the question on the screen as a thesis for the article. So the biggest struggle here, and it would have been a struggle at the end of lesson 1 as well, when they first started reading the text, is its complexity. Students only read the first 7 paragraphs, but the teacher may have wanted to be creative about how that reading happened in small groups, with a partner, utilizing Snap and Read or Rewordify, really depending on specific students. For the next activity, students use a vocabulary journal, which they will maintain for the entire unit. They also use a vocabulary and context tool for words they can decipher from the text. For others, they might use morphology to decipher the meaning or a reference resource to check if the meaning is accurate. For some words, the teacher might present them with definitions. Students write down the words and definitions from their annotations, vocabulary list, or a list the teacher provides in their vocabulary journal. For each word, they'll identify the vocabulary strategy they use to determine its meaning. It is suggested that this activity can be done before or after reading. I probably would have done it before they read the article. So in lesson one, it is suggested. Um, I just did that. Personally, I'm a big fan of the vocabulary and context tool. We're always talking about STAR prep, and not only is it exactly what students are asked to do on STAR regarding context, but it also breaks down the metacognitive process for how to do it. So I would hope to see that made available to students. Another tidbit worth noting in the teacher's notes is when having students define words using contextual clues, they should keep in mind that the complexity of the context used might vary greatly depending on the student's linguistic and cultural background. These differences are grounded in students' understanding not only language, but of context. For example, native English speakers might grasp nuances and contextual clues, such as tone or cultural references, while English learners might not understand, making it all the more difficult for them to define the targeted vocabulary word. So, model and be strategic about which words students are attempting to define and use. The next activity, activity 3, is optional and has students review the definitions for the term issue, perspective, position, reporting claim, and evidence in the argument terminology section of the argument reference plan. Students discuss their understanding of each of these terms with a partner, using examples from the article they are examining and discussing. Then in their vocabulary journal, they paraphrase the definitions in terms. So this optional activity is a support. So it would be based on whether the teacher identified students were or were not familiar with these terms, I would say, in the previous activity. As moving on to activity 4, students independently read and annotate the rest of Why Owning a Home is the American Dream, considering the questions on the screen. Afterward, they join a discussion team with other students and compare their responses to the 3 guided questions. Further teaching notes, this is the first activity in the unit in which students will work in reading teams. Teachers might want to think about how to best group students and what, if anything, they need to review with students about roles and responsibilities when working in collaborative teams and about engaging in text conversations. So, 2 things. The directions say students are reading independently, but again, it's a complex text, so that should vary. There are a lot of options, like I mentioned earlier, partners, the teacher might put it in a group, or just allow students to work in small groups. Again, you guys have to read or reverify. Second, as the teacher notes mentioned, when students move into their small group discussions, those should be intentional, not on the fly. Your group is whoever you're student with. Students need structure. So I would hope that there's been a discussion and teachers have a plan, not only for what this discussion is going to look like, but also what they'll be doing as students are discussing. Next, students return to their learning goals to explain what they have learned from reading and analyzing Why Owning a Home is the American Dream, and how the article relates to the question there on the screen. Why is home ownership considered a part of the book? Write about how the information presented in the article might influence your own thinking about owning or not owning a home. This lesson concludes with students reading and annotating the text excerpt from Detached Houses, The Truth of Home Ownership, which is a narrative text. Again, it's not available anywhere online, so if you should have it, but you don't, just obviously have to skip. As they're reading, they're using a copy of the Attending to Details tool to note key details in response to one of the questions there on the screen. It is assumed in this activity that students are familiar with the use of the Attending to Details tool. However, since this is the first tool in this tool, And obviously, with emergent text, it might be helpful to know the use of the tool for students. So we are now ready for our hub. We have students with notes, Anthony the Thomas perspective and thesis at the start of the article. Why owning a home is the American dream, should say dream. So understand how DePaul meets recent evidence to develop his perspective thesis, and be able to analyze characteristics and structural elements of the informational text. Why owning a home is the American dream, such as thesis, evidence, pertinent examples, commentary, etc., by discussing the following questions. At the conclusion of the outcome, I just would so much, but it is very so again, that's a wrap for this video. I welcome your feedback and look forward to hearing from you either on Twitter, via email, or in the comments. While you're here, don't forget to subscribe so you never have to worry about missing a video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again for lesson